Hello everyone and welcome to Live from the IT Room podcast presented by Supreme Systems. I'm Julian, the Business Development Manager, and today we're going to be discussing cybersecurity awareness training with my special guest today, Robert Hall of Brigantia Partners. Hi Rob, how are you today?
Yeah, good, thanks. And thank you for having me on the podcast today. Really appreciate it.
We really appreciate you joining us, Rob. So, for those that don't know, cyber awareness training is all about educating your staff on how to spot malicious emails and what to do when they find one. It usually comprises a simulated attack alongside monitoring of which employees interact with the email and then delivery of training resources to those who require it. So, Rob, can you tell us what is cybersecurity awareness training?
Security awareness training is technology that allows you to run phishing campaigns and training campaigns to enable staff to learn from that. Think of it as a different type of AI. It's actual intelligence for staff instead of artificial intelligence. It's training that allows, or it's a system that allows staff to, or companies to deliver training that gives them a clear view of visibility on risk that those staff members pose from a phishing point of view, helps them understand what's likely to happen if somebody clicks on a link, and what the ways of protecting against that.
Okay. And why is cyber security awareness training so important?
It's important because without understanding what that risk is, you won't know what users are likely to do. It's a requirement under GDPR, and it's just a really good way of getting a view of who clicks on what, who opens attachments, and then also it's a way of training those staff to prevent those attacks or those mistakes in the future.
So is awareness training something that can be done once and forgotten, or are there benefits to periodic or even continual training?
Definitely worth doing it on an ongoing basis, because the main reason for that is, as I mentioned, is it's a requirement under GDPR, and GDPR says that it's not just a requirement once off, it's an ongoing requirement. The second point on that is, if you can imagine that you deliver training once a year, people or staff joining the business the day after that or the month after that won't have that training for another 11 months or 51 weeks or whatever it may be. So doing it on an ongoing, continuous basis through a system that allows you to automate it means that new starters, when they join a business, they can go through the training at the point of starting within that organization. So it means that those new staff members or anybody that comes in after the original training, they will still get the same level of security awareness training, and they will reduces the risk that a member of staff poses to the business.
Would you deliver it on a continual basis then, or bi-monthly or quarterly? How would you recommend that be delivered?
Essentially, it's up to the end user to decide how often they want to do it. According to GDPR, it is a requirement to do it continuously. That may be training once every 3 weeks, and maybe training a couple of times a quarter. It really does depend on the end user organization. But like so many things in life, the more you put into it, the more you get out. So the more training you deliver to staff, the less likely there is to be a breach, the more effective it will be for the organization.
Oh, that makes sense. What type of cyber attacks does awareness training protect against specifically?
All kinds, because if you look at some of the systems out there, what they will provide training on is not just how to spot a phishing attack. They will provide training around how to spot CEO fraud attacks. They go into training on what spear phishing is or what social engineering is. So an example of social engineering is where attackers will use social media to monitor organizations and users within an organization, so that they know when the CEO's away for business or out of the office. And that's when they will then carry out an attack on the rest of the organization to say, or to send an email to the finance team saying, as you know, I'm down in London at a meeting. Can you send a payment to this customer, or they're going to cut us off, or we need to make this payment urgently? Because that kind of thing, or what users put on social media, can give attackers an insight into things they probably shouldn't know, and it just gives them a way of delivering targeted and relevant attacks to organizations. Security awareness training will be able to train users on how to spot those attacks, but it also goes into detail on how to spot things like tailgating attacks, which is where somebody will stand outside an office with 2 cups of coffee in their hand and ask somebody to give them access to the building and say that they've got their pass in their pocket. Security awareness training will actually tell staff that if somebody finds themselves in that situation, they actually should turn around to the person and say, well, okay, I'll hold the 2 cups of coffee for you while you show me your pass. So it's that kind of thing that security awareness training provides, which is really useful information for users, because at the end of the day, it's about empowering staff so that they can actually help protect the business. They become your human firewall. So it's really a case of being able to deliver that kind of training that covers a range of different attack vectors so that staff know what to look for, and it makes them the human firewall, if I can put it that way.
So we've spoken a little bit about what cybersecurity awareness training is, how often it should be delivered, and the sort of attacks that it protects against. So what cyber awareness training solutions do you recommend specifically?
Like everything, there's a few different varieties, but if you're looking for a solution that delivers a cost-effective option for organizations of all size, whether it's 5 users or 5,000 users, that also delivers an enterprise level solution which is scalable to everyone's requirements, I would definitely recommend KnowBefore. They are the market leader. They've got about 1,000 staff worldwide. They've got more security content or training content and phishing templates than anyone else in the industry. And they are the Gartner Magic Quadrant leader in this category. And they've been around for 10 years, so they are a mature vendor. It's not a vendor that's doing other things and we'll offer security awareness training because it's a growing category. It's a case of saying our focus is security awareness training. This is what we do. This is what we've done for the last 10 years. It's what we know. It's what we are as an organization.
Okay, so can you tell us a little bit more about what KnowBeforeDoors? How has it become the market leader?
In a few different ways, really, because like I said, they've been around for 10 years. They don't just create content, they also acquire content publishers. So they've acquired a range of content publishers over the years, and their content covers everything from, traditional security awareness training to help staff know how to spot a phishing attack, but all the way through to compliance training modules. So you can do GDPR training for staff, you can do PCI training for staff, you can do PII training for staff, which is personal identifiable information. And they go all the way to the point where you can even deliver training to staff on how to keep kids safe online. And the reason why I mention that is because it's one of those that I like mentioning, because it highlights the fact that it's not just about security awareness training for the organization. It's helping individuals learn and be more sort of security conscious themselves. Because if you do that, then there's a couple of things. Obviously, the users will be more encouraged or more enthusiastic about using the training because they may learn from it themselves. But it also means that it's a very effective way of doing it for organizations because they get the buy-in from the users. And that's just on the on the training side. On the phishing side of things, they've got over 4,000 different emails. It's 4,250 or something. And those phishing templates cover a variety of different things. So if you can imagine that 65% of UK businesses have migrated to Office 365, and the fact that 68% of phishing attacks are Microsoft branded, it means, or KnowBefore allow you to send out phishing templates or phishing attacks to staff that are Microsoft branded, that are, Office 365 password resets. But at the same time, they also deliver emails like LinkedIn add me to your network emails. So it allows you to test across different types of services and different kinds of brands worldwide. And specifically in the UK, what you can also deliver phishing campaigns that are maybe Barclays Bank templates or NatWest or HSBC. The great thing about that is that you can specifically target certain groups within the organization. So you can use the Barclays one to send to finance staff to see if they click on a link because it looks like it's their it's their bank account number that's included. So that's one format you can use. You can attach files to a template and send it out to sales staff and name the attachments invoice or purchase order, just as a way of seeing whether the staff or the salespeople click on that because they think it's a purchase order. That's probably the kind of thing you want to do today because it's last day of the month and people are chasing orders. So yeah, it's that kind of thing that you can do with the KnowBefore system, which really sets it aside from everything else. But I think the best part is that it allows you to do all of these things, but or run all of these phishing tests, but in a way that's fully randomized. So it's not a case of sending all the emails at the same time, and it's not a case of sending the same email to everybody. You can do that if you really want, but it also allows you to customize it and send out the emails over a period of time, and also randomize the emails. So you select the category, KnowBefore will choose which email to send to each user, so that you don't get that scenario where one person stands up in the office and says, that email that just came in is the phishing test, don't click on the link. Because that will obviously skew the results you get from it. So By doing that, it means that the test is not predictable. Users won't say it's 4:30 on a Friday afternoon, so here comes our phishing test. The test goes out in a fully randomized way so that you get real results from it. Nobody really knows when that email is coming.
Okay, so it sounds like a really versatile system. You mentioned that it does the training and you mentioned that it does the phishing tests. Are there any other attacks types that KnowBe4 can protect against?
Yeah, there's also voice phishing. So you can deliver an attack where a user will get a phone call from an automated system that says doctor's office calling. And the goal of the test is to see which users will enter their date of birth, because that's the kind of attack that can be used, or the kind of data that can be used by attackers in more specific attacks. So it does allow you to run that kind of a test on users and see what they're likely to fall for. They've got a USB drive test as well. So you take a USB drive, you label it company salaries or whatever you want, and then you leave that USB in a high traffic area of the office to see who picks it up and puts it into a machine. So you'll get an insight into potentially who's going to steal data from a company, but also potentially who just innocently picks up a USB drive and puts it into a machine. Because as mentioned earlier, tailgating attacks where somebody stands outside a building and gains physical access, it's easier to gain that physical access to organizations than it is through the network. So that's something that's happening more and more often. A person will get access to a building, they'll leave USB drives all over the place because it's human nature to pick up a USB drive and say, "Oh, what's this?" Put it into a machine and then spread malware. So you've got those types of attacks with KnowBe4.
So obviously it's covering a wide range of attacks and a wide range of training. But obviously at that point, then once you've identified the people that are most likely to interact with malicious emails or most likely to fall for phishing attacks or USB attacks, you have to deliver the training. So what makes KnowBe4's training effective?
What makes it effective is the fact that it's interactive. So in order for the user to complete the training, they have to click through each section. So they have to interact with the system, which means they're more likely to be engaged with it. There's also a quiz included as well with the training modules, which means that as the user goes through it, they have to pay attention. Otherwise, they will fail the test and they'll have to go back and redo the training. So they are forced to pay attention. And by doing that as well, it means that you can clearly demonstrate how effective the training has been for staff, because there's no sort of skipping to the last minutes of the training module and then claiming that you've watched it. There is a test that makes sure that you pass the test so that companies can actually ensure that users are learning from the training. So that's what makes it effective. They also have games as well. So you can push games out, things like Spot the Fish. And by doing that, there's that gamification element to it, which means users in certain companies, obviously, it may not work for all companies, but some companies may choose to deploy a game because there'll be a bit of inter-department competition through the KnowBe4 system, through the games. And we all know that it's a nice way of encouraging people to learn by using a game.
Great. I think the last thing that I want to cover is you mentioned earlier that it's a cost-effective solution, but can you give us an idea of what it would cost, or what it would cost for an average business, or some way of gauging how much the KnowBe4 solution costs per user maybe?
I think you'd be surprised. I mean, I can't get into exact amounts because obviously it depends on where you're buying it, and it also depends on whether you're getting it as a managed service or not, where somebody's managing the service for you instead of the end user doing it themselves. So it does depend on what type of setup you take, but you can get it on a monthly basis. And, in real terms, it probably costs less than what a lot of companies are spending on coffee for their staff. So it is a very cost-effective solution. It also depends on how big the end user organization is. So you're looking at pricing of, I would say, between £5 and £10 per user per month. But that includes all of the training. It includes everything that you get with the system. You can also do multiple training campaigns at the same time, pay for how much data or how much training you actually need to pay for the solution per month. So you can use it as much as you want, which comes back to my point that the more you put in, the more you get out.
Well, excellent. Rob, I think we've covered cyber awareness training and KnowBe4 in particular very well today. So thank you very much for joining me.
Always a pleasure. Thank you very much for having me on your podcast.
No, very welcome. Thank you. And that just leaves me to say goodbye from Live in the IT Room podcast. I hope you'll join me again next time. See you later.